Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Interviewing Broncos Country Season 2. We're going into our second episode today, and I'm super pumped about it because we're going international today, bringing in Troy. How are you doing, Troy?
G'day, mate. How's it going?
Good. So where are you from? How long have you been a Broncos fan?
I am from New Zealand, all the way down here in Christchurch, which is down towards the bottom of New Zealand. And I have been a Broncos fan since Tim Tebow's playoff game.
2010. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the best Bronco moments of my life. That touchdown pass.
That I don't remember much of it at all because it wasn't, I wasn't deep into it. It was my first sort of taste, and that end of that season, I didn't really know too much about it. But that's been along. Now, actually, I want to just interject because you said we're going international, and your introduction,
yes,
your little introduction film, actually made me feel a bunch of different emotions. And the first thing that popped out is us international fans. I think we don't get enough credit for how much of fans we really are, considering for the fact that, like me, never once been to a Broncos game, haven't been to any NFL games ever. We don't get the same coverage. It's not on our TVs. We don't get the same opportunities for merchandise. The last most of the shops and stores around here that sell merch, it's Chiefs or Raiders, and that is it's not even on purpose,
Right,
it's not even the fact. I just happen to be a Broncos fan, and the only stuff that they stock in New Zealand primarily is, Raiders and Chiefs merch, and that's just, it hurts every time I go into a shopping mall and I see this stuff proudly on display, because no one cares, right? They probably need, particularly for Raiders merch, it's not even the fact that it's NFL merch. It's just, I think Raiders merch internationally has been a fairly marketable brand, that the black shield and the whole gimmick and the look of it all. I get from a marketing perspective how it works, but man, it just hurts.
Yeah. Well, I think I relate to what you're saying probably more than you think, because growing up I lived in Wisconsin, and then we moved to Florida, and the Denver Broncos were never on the local television. So the way it works here is you got 10 football games being played at noon or 1 p.m. usually for Eastern Standard Time. And then at 4 o'clock, you get the West Coast games. And that's when the Denver Broncos would come on. But there would be 5 games in that window. And for Florida, the local television wants to put the game on that's going to get the most views. And they think in Florida, no one cares about the Broncos. So the Broncos rarely would get selected for national television. So I would have to find all these, pirating ways of finding the football game. And when I turned 18 years old, I was like working a job making like $300 a week. And I saved all of my paychecks. I flew to Denver by myself. I got my own hotel room. I got a ticket to the Broncos game. They were playing the Chargers in the playoffs in 2013. And I went into the stadium, and in a way, I felt so lonely because I even though I was surrounded by Bronco fans, I had nobody there that knew what that moment meant to me. And I felt that I was also around a lot of people that just took for granted that they can just roll out of bed, hop on the Amtrak and it'll drop you off outside the stadium. And it's like, for me, I had been fantasizing about this moment for the last 14 years, and
Mhm.
it was just such a big thing for me. But I felt like everybody else there is like, yeah, you go into the Broncos game, like take it or leave it. And so I know what you mean as a fan of like how much more work you have to put in. And for me, it was never really about like, oh, I have to do all of this. I had to do it because I was such a big
Mhm.
fan. I had no choice. Like it
Mhm.
was either that or I would go to a local sports bar and they would have what's called the Sunday ticket and they play every football game. And then I
Mhm.
would have to ask them, hey, can you put the Broncos game? And usually I would get the little TV in the corner and I would just sit there and, I didn't have a ton of money. So I'd order a basket of fries and a Coke and have
Yeah.
20 refills just watching the Broncos game on that little TV. But yeah,
I
I
can I can't
for granted.
totally take it for granted, and particularly with the change last year. So, uh, as we were just talking before we came on, my my viewing experience of the Broncos just gets worse every year, simply for the fact of how hard the NFL make it to watch. And I even, going to the forums, subreddit, Twitter, and seeing people like yourselves do content on YouTube, it seems to be even a bit of an effort for people in the States to even just watch games. The biggest change for us was, of course, for many, many years, I was able to buy the NFL Game Pass, the international Game Pass. Fantastic product. Like, for 250, 350 New Zealand dollars, got the full season, could get it for the 12 months, could watch all the old games, previous seasons, and all that sort of stuff. But, all the great features that the Game Pass had. And then, of course, they went to DAZN or whatever, however you pronounce it, last year, and that's just been just a complete and utter downgrade. The video quality has been terrible. The lack of features is terrible, and I'm just like, man, like, okay, well, yo ho ho, it is.
Yeah.
off to the wild ocean and to put my eye patch on and
Yeah.
find just some other way that I can watch it. It's so frustrating. But of course, the
Luckily,
issue with not going away from that Game Pass was the ability to jump back on if I missed it. I could rewatch a full game. You get the coach's view or the compressed game later on to just flick through if you wanted to watch it again. So of course we miss out on all of that. I'm just like, okay, NFL, if you don't want an international audience, I guess that's what happens.
so the way that you were watching it that you loved, where you could watch, was it called NFL Game Pass? You said
Mhm.
they did away with that.
They they you used to buy it directly through the NFL, so you'd go to the NFL Game Pass website, but now it's through that Russian, I think some Russian oligarch owns it, that DAZN, and they
Oh,
have
okay.
all the European football, and they've had some motorsport, and like they're trying to be a sports streaming provider, and the service is just diabolical. It's terrible, and
Man.
along with that comes all the issues of people being overcharged and never being able to cancel, and you used to be able to buy the full year at one price, and
Have you tried
now it's changed.
buying a VPN and connecting your IP address to the United States? Because I got a buddy who has a VPN. I think it's called VPN, and it's an
Hmm.
app, and he connects to Chicago's local network. So
Okay.
when he logs in to say Hulu or YouTube TV, if you get YouTube
Hmm.
TV, it's $70 for the month. I only do it during the football season and I cancel
Hmm.
for the rest of the
Hmm.
year, but you get basic cable and then you just make your IP address Denver,
Hmm.
Colorado, and then you're hooked up to the local network So the
Mhm.
Broncos games are always shown on,
Mhm.
the national television in Denver,
Mhm.
which is probably your best route, I would think. I know another website that I use that I can't tell you right here, but I can say that it's been amazing, and I've used it for like
Mhm.
4 years in a row now, and
Mhm.
just the same as watching it on TV.
Yeah.
But maybe you're behind 30 seconds, but
Mhm.
it doesn't matter as long as you're not like, looking in one screen at the live updates and watching the game on the other screen. You got to just make that the only thing you're watching. But it's a minute tops delayed.
Yeah. Yeah. The time difference, probably for me, as I was saying earlier, the games being here in New Zealand were in the future. So uh, when you're watching games on a Sunday afternoon, they're generally around about anywhere, depending on most of the Broncos games, if they're at home on a Sunday afternoon or the mid, are they Sunday afternoon or they sort of like lunchtime for you guys?
So you got
A home game.
noon and then afternoon and then Sunday night.
Yeah, yeah. So it's generally in the afternoon. So that's like a Monday. That'll be like a Monday morning for me at around about 10:30 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So I'm at work.
On Monday, of course. Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of how it is when I was in the Navy and I was in Hawaii, and the games would come on at 6 a.m. in the morning, but it
Mm,
was still Sunday, so it didn't matter. But you're
mm,
going forward, so you're at work. Ah,
mhm.
man, that is just so brutal. Have you
It's
lived?
not too bad.
It's not too bad.
That's not too bad.
I couldn't imagine having to be at work during a Broncos game. Like that to me, I'm getting like anxious just thinking about being in that situation.
Um, it, and for me, it's not so bad because I'm kind of my own boss. I don't have anyone looking over my shoulder. I could stay
Okay.
at home if I wanted. I could stay at home and sit on the couch if I wanted to, but my clients and my customers would like to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The other, the other contributing factor to it being a little bit difficult on being a Monday is just the investment in time that an NFL game takes. We're talking 3+ hours. So, I mean, just as well that it does take so long because I can actually get quite a bit of work done during the breaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Three and a half. So
it
last
does
year,
take away your suspension of disbelief a little bit. You kind of feel like you're just pausing everything and coming back to it. You don't get a good flow.
yeah, yeah. And I always say you can't pause your emotions. It's like you're watching
Mm,
a
mm,
movie and you're at an amazing, emotional part of the movie, and somebody says, like, I go to the bathroom, pause it. And you're like, I mean,
mm,
I can pause it, but like, I'm not going to be able to start back up emotionally to get back where I'm at right now. So, because it's an
mm,
emotional game. Um,
mm,
and, that's why the commercial breaks is usually like, I'll never go to the bathroom during the game. I'll be dancing. And then as soon as the
yeah,
commercial, I'm running to the bathroom,
yeah,
peeing,
yeah.
grabbing a beer, running back. But so last year with Bo Nix, what was your expectations going into the season with him, and what are your expectations now compared to when he hadn't played a game
Yeah,
yet?
I mean, I don't think. Are we allowed to have expectations as Broncos fans after what we've been through?
I think we are. I think this is the year where we're putting it all out there again.
That's fair. Yeah.
Last year we were dipping our foot in the pool, feeling the
Mhm.
temperature. This year we're not dipping our foot in the pool. We're going off the high dive, and we're just cannonballing into the water.
I think the cuts and the 53 that they've set it on. I haven't had a deep look into the 53, but I've only really been paying attention to the cuts and the practice squad signings, and I know that's still in motion. That's probably not going to be settled for a good week or two until everything's been brought up. But yeah, no, it does make sense. The letting go of Devon Vele and some of the tight ends that have been let go. It really makes you feel confident that the front office has got their shit together. And yeah, I do feel. I was watching something yesterday or the day before. Chris Sims, maybe they were talking about how he had been chatting with some of the people around the game and talking about the Broncos, and it feels like the comments that he brought up with Sean Payton talking about how Sean Payton's been talking to the young guys on the team saying, hey, you guys are better than you think. You guys need to have that swagger. You deserve to have that swagger, because I've been around the game a wee while. You guys are young bucks. You've got what it takes. And I really feel like that's a positive signal. I know every coach likes to talk up their team, but
it's different.
Sean Payton doesn't seem to be like one of those guys that's going to piss on your leg and tell you it's raining.
Yeah, we had Sean Payton for 3 years, so we have a sample size enough to know that he didn't do this last year, and he didn't do it the year before. And honestly, I was saying this yesterday. The roster, I've been a fan since like my whole life. I can't, you can't really remember your first memories, but for me, I was into the Broncos as soon as I gained consciousness. And it's been that way my whole life. My family has no idea why. They're all Packer fans. I was a little kid when I said, I'm going to be a Broncos fan, and I really stuck with it. And I always say I didn't choose to be a Broncos fan. They must have chosen me, because what kid at 5 years old makes a decision and it has that kind of effect on him? That's something, mystical about it. But what I can say is I haven't seen a team top to bottom look this good. And I was going back and I thought, well, the 2015 Broncos, the defense, I think it matches up with this defense, but the offense in 2015, I like ours better with Bo Nix than Peyton Manning in his final year. And then, of course, the 2013, the offense was incredible, the best ever, but the defense couldn't come close to this defense. So when I look at this team, I think this is one of the best teams I've ever seen on paper. And I have the roster right here, but just bringing in Drake Greenlaw, he brings that attitude. On defense, you have a lot of silent killers like Patrick Surtain, but Drake Greenlaw's that bark that every defense needs, the attitude. You bring in him, you bring in Hufunga from San Francisco.
Just so I can interrupt there for a second. What I like about what they've done with some of their signings gives me a lot of confidence that Greenlaw is actually going to be pretty healthy this season. And I like the fact that we have that depth to back it up. But the fact that they are, it does feel like, yeah, we're good. We're locked into this dude. We think he's going to be good. So we're happy to let some of those guys go. We had incredible depth through the preseason for the linebackers and, on the outside edges doing some great things. And the fact that they're sticking with that core group really gives me a lot of confidence that it's going to be pretty stacked, and that he's going to be healthy. I'm pretty stoked about that, because I think that was kind of one of the question marks that a lot of people out in the biz sort of had. Well, he's awesome when he's healthy, but I think he's going to be healthy. So that gives me a lot of confidence.
I do too. I think if there was concerns about that, they would have given him no contract, because Sean has been very, and it's the letting go of Audric Estime it tells
Mhm.
you where his mindset's at, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of coaches that, hey, I just drafted this guy last year. If I release him now, it makes it look like I don't know what I'm doing with the players that I'm bringing in here. But Sean, his legacy is already cemented, so he doesn't need Audric Estime to work out to validate him as a coach. He has
Mhm.
always looked at our roster with full integrity and said, no matter how much they get paid, where they were drafted, I'm going to put the best 53 on the field. And right when he came in and he got rid of Randy Gregory, he made it obvious
Mhm.
that nobody was safe. And
Mhm.
that is exactly why I think with him getting rid of Audric Estime, it says to Sean and to us, this is a Super Bowl team, because we don't have a couple of years for Audric Estime to get ready, because that one spot is crucial, because we could have a guy that's a little bit better, and that could be the difference between a win or a loss in an AFC championship game. So we are
It's
like,
like, yeah, it's like the other thing you particularly when you bring up estimate, and there's a couple of things that come to mind with that. I saw some of the reporting come out of Estime saying, well, I don't want to re-sign with the Broncos anyway. I'm not, and I was like, there's been another couple of other cuts that they've made. And, and you mentioned Randy Gregory and stuff as well. That there's also, that gives me some signals around like a cultural aspect of what the kind of person that they want on the team. And,
yes, yes,
I mean, Jerry Jeudy only has to be like the most biggest example of someone whose locker room attitude was not
yeah.
at all what was fitting with the rest of the team. And I think I'm just assuming from a very small number of sample size here, but generally it seems to be, particularly you mentioned Audrey Extermade, the fact that he made those comments. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe it sounds like he wasn't gelling. Forget,
Yeah.
add to that as well that RJ Harvey seems to be filling that spot a lot more. Has a lot more to offer than what Estime did.
The attitude that the players have, and as fans, all we see is the preseason games, but with Sean, it's about the way they are in the film room,
Mm.
what time they show up, how much energy are they putting into their reps in the workout room, what kind of reps are they getting in practice. All of these things that are behind closed doors that we as fans don't get to see. But you just know that when a guy gets cut, it's not just because of one thing. It's because that player doesn't fit the Bronco way. And this is
Mm.
what Sean came in to do when he first got here. There was no culture. So he had to create a culture. And remember, it started with putting that car in front of their practice facility with no rear view mirrors, saying
Mm.
that, we're not looking backwards. And those things are great because you need a starting point. But now we've gotten our team into the culture is alive and well. No one's building it. It's here, but Sean has to protect it now. And this
Mhm.
is when he told all of the players right after they lost to Buffalo and they had their final meeting before training camp. He said, I owe it to you guys to only bring in players that are going to contribute to what we've built here. I mean, we can't bring in a Micah Parsons. We can't
Mhm.
bring in somebody, because you can have a perfect home, but if there's one crack in it, all it can destroy everything. So
You
you're
say
right
you
about
say
that.
that we can't bring in someone like Parsons, but we got Hufanga, we got Greenlaw, we got and Ingram. So those are three pretty good names. I know they
Well,
may
no,
not be
I don't
unlike
mean
Parsons, but we
talent
still get
wise.
some good people coming. Yeah,
I don't mean talent wise. I mean Micah Parsons is under contract and he's pretending that he has back pain and he won't play unless
I
he
see.
gets a new
Oh,
contract.
okay,
And
yeah, yeah.
we got Nick Benito, who is on the final year of his contract. Same situation as Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
Mm-hmm.
still under contract and but you know what? He was talking to reporters last Monday and he said Actually, for me, I'm under contract, so me not
Mhm.
showing up to work, that doesn't make any
I see what
sense.
you mean.
I signed a
Yeah,
4-year deal. I'm in the final
yeah.
year of my contract, and it's all about winning the Super Bowl right now. And you
Mhm,
see, like, he's in the same position as Micah, and
mhm.
and it's just a totally different attitude completely. So
Sutton taking, less to stay potentially. I mean, that's again, I mean, you could have arguments to say, well, maybe that's what he's worth anyway, but still, he took a team friendly deal.
mhm. And not just the players that have taken deals. Sam Ellinger, who the Broncos couldn't sign on their 53, he could have gone to other teams. They called him and said they wanted him on their 53-man roster, and he
Hmm.
would be at least making the veteran minimum, which would be $1
Hmm.
million. And he decided to stay in Denver, and he wanted to be on the practice squad. That was his
Hmm.
choice because he
Hmm.
feels like, I can only imagine that he feels if I can just stay in this system with Sean for one more year, he can elevate me to a level where I'll be worth real money, instead of just running off to another team and capitalizing. I could maybe get you. So you got players that are so bought in that even the players that didn't make the 53-man roster, they still want to be around this team. They believe in
Mm.
what Sean's building. They believe
Okay, I have
that.
to. I have to go back to your original question now.
Yeah, yeah.
Of expectations. I think you've done a pretty good job of convincing me that we should have some pretty good expectations. And to be fair, I am very excited about this year, more so than any year going. Well, since the Super Bowl, you
Yeah.
know, um, it's just been. I mean, I know there are fan bases out there that have probably had it worse. I mean, you only have to talk to a Jets fan to see how miserable that must feel. But you know, um, but yeah, okay. If I go back to your question originally, I think definitely with the change in the Russell Wilson situation, the fact that we do have a little bit more to spend, the fact that we did get those players in, the fact of the depth. I mean, there's just so many conversations around the league and online in the NFL universe about the depth of the Broncos this year. It does make you feel really good. And what are they? That 9.5? I
Nine
think
and a half.
they're looking at 9.5, and most people are saying that's probably going to be 1.5 over that. So yeah, man, like I'm looking at 12 games. I
I think
reckon. I
12.
reckon. I think 12 is really doable.
I think 12 is last year I said 10 and I was right on the money with it. And this year I think 12, and I would be shocked if they don't get to 12 because
Hmm.
uh I I've been saying this for a while, but when you watch football your whole life and you see a player go out onto the field, there's certain things that can be faked where you can get lucky. The ball bounces your way and you have one good game. And
Hmm.
then you have these other moments where a player will show you a side of them and like without a doubt that player has it. He belongs in the NFL and he's going to be an elite player at the position. And when I saw Bo Nix go against the Colts in his preseason game and he was leading touchdown drives every single time, I knew. I went on this podcast and I told the whole world that we've brought in all these quarterbacks. None of them have looked like this. None of them.
Hmm.
And
No.
we have a reason to be excited. And I'm like, you can trust your eyes. Like you're watching it. It's not fake. And did you
Hmm.
see Bo Nix get drastically better last season? You did. I mean, look at
Mhm.
its first
Yeah.
2 games and then look at the end. And then you have NFL reporters coming to Denver, and every single, whether it was Kay Adams or I could go on and on with like the Ian
Mhm.
Rappaports and from NFL
Mhm.
Network, they all came in and said the same thing. They said Denver feels different than all the other
Mhm.
teams that we visited, and they're not
Mhm.
afraid to talk Super Bowl. And one of the lead writers for NFL.com, she said, Bo Nix is a big boy now.
Handbrake. Yeah. I
She
should pull
said,
a handbrake on the Super Bowl just a little bit, but
yeah, well,
I'm
they're
just
not afraid
we
to
still
talk
we still
Super
have
Bowl.
we still have that PTSD from the last 10 years.
I don't. I feel like this is a Super Bowl team, and Russell Wilson won a
Mm.
Super Bowl in his second year
Mhm.
because of the Legion of Boom. And I feel
Mhm.
that Bo Nix is going to have a better year than Russ had year 2. And
Mhm.
when that lead writer for NFL.com talked to Bo Nix, she told Rich Eisen that he told her that he had no idea what he was doing last year, that everything he told her, he was just making it up. He was just memorizing the plays, just like,
Yeah.
and when you're I played football. When you're memorizing in any profession, if you're memorizing it instead of understanding the why behind why
Mhm.
you're doing what you're doing, there's
Mhm.
just a certain level of expertise that you're not going to achieve. When I was a
Mhm.
radar operator, like I had a lot of things I was memorizing, but once I understood the why and what my role is for the whole team to one collective mission, like what my piece of the pie, how it affects this one's job and this one, that's when I became a actual skilled operator. And Bo
Mhm.
Nix has gone from memorizing the playbook to being a teacher and a leader on the field. And what we saw
Mhm.
last year was just a sneak peek at what you're going to see this year. Bo Nix is going to take the league by storm this year. And if he goes out there and he cements himself as a top 7 quarterback in the NFL with this defense, I
Mhm.
mean, there's no reason they shouldn't be going and talking about these things, because last year they had the best defense and they added 2 Pro Bowlers and the best cornerback in the draft to go with Surtain. They should be holding their opponents to 16 points per game, and they should be
Yeah.
scoring at least 25.
Okay, I'm going to pour a little rain on your parade here for a second. Just be
No. Okay.
the devil's advocate, and what you're saying, I'm totally on board with. I think my perspective is a little different, right? And if you can indulge me here a little bit, because I'm an international fan, didn't grow up with the sport. I am my first real sort of introduction to the sport has always, it's been, I mean, outside of America and the United States, the Super Bowl, NFL is a known quantity, right? You'd have to be living on North Sentinel Island to not know about the NFL, right? And while I watched that game with that playoff game, and my interest sort of got into the NFL a lot more, that I wanted to learn about the game, it really sort of cemented when I read "Slow Getting Up" by Nate. Is it Nate Robinson? He used to be
The basketball player?
and he played tight end for the Broncos. He's been on a few podcasts. He does a bit of writing around. The book is called Slow Getting Up, but he started out in San Francisco, ended up in the Broncos, and it was all about the injuries that they got, and the just what it was like to be a kind of a nobody in the NFL. And he finished his career in the Broncos, and because of his insights into what it was like as a player and the Broncos organization at the time, that really cemented my knowledge to learn a lot more about the game. Now, I'm doing a bit of a weave here, but what I'm trying to get at is my experience with the game as a whole, not just the Broncos, but the game as a whole. That's the one. Nate Jackson. There we go. I said Robinson. Nate Jackson. Yeah, I recommend it thoroughly for any fan of the game, as well as any Broncos fan. It's really, really good. my experience with sport in general has been either, particularly in New Zealand, we have rugby and the All Blacks, just a dominant force in rugby. We have cricket, of course. So my experience is not the same as yours. So we come from it in a completely different perspective. No one plays it here. We don't get, it's not in our consciousness. It's not something that is just part of your culture outside of it being a sport. So when international fans come to the game, there's just so much context that we miss. And while we have the spectacle, while we love the fan, while we love the game, while we love the hits, while we love the strategy and the defense and the offensive side of things, we have to learn in a really different way about why these things matter and why they're important. It's not just something that It's not like, of course we have, of course this is the way that the game works because it always has, and you're stupid for not knowing that. We have to I had to figure out what the hell the difference between a quarterback and a linebacker was. I'm like, these things that you just seem incredibly obvious. So I think as an outside fan, when we start talking about the game to the level that we potentially are on something like the podcast, or when you're watching game day footage and when you're really wanting to learn more about the game, it feels like sometimes you can see things that make sense to me that doesn't make sense to someone else. And the reason why I sort of bring this up is you were talking about why I wanted to sort of rain on your parade a little bit, right? And again, it might be coming from my ignorance or my lack of knowledge that's really deep about the game. But play calling, for example, right? That's what this is where I'm trying to get to. So when it comes to play calling, one of the things that I found incredibly frustrating last year, and maybe for certain different reasons, particularly when Sean Payton had Russell Wilson, some of the play calling I know we could only do because that's what you can you can put lipstick on a turd, but
right.
Whereas last year, some of the play calling left a lot to be desired. And that would be, I think, among all of the green flags that we have for this year, I think this year that would be something that I would question in regards to the play calling. I feel like some of the decisions that were made last year around what we were doing on third down or what we were doing on second down when we were in a position that we knew that we really had to make a pretty decent effort to have a good third down, that would be the thing that I would have a big question mark over this year. And if there was any area in the game which I wanted to see an improvement, or not necessarily, maybe even not an improvement, but more of an understanding as to why they're making the decisions that they're making around play calling, that would be it. But defense, I don't have an issue with. I think just the fact that that Vance Joseph is still having the time of his life, and here at the Broncos again, I just don't have any question about what's happening there. My one question mark I would have would be around how are we going to handle the play calling. I don't think even within the preseason, I don't think our third down performance was that fantastic. And I really would like to see that evolve in a really positive way.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at the history of Sean, he's always wanted to establish the running game first and build the passing game off of that. But all of our running backs, like Javonte Williams last year, he just didn't have a good season in him. Audric Estime, he didn't even make our roster this year. So now we know how Denver really felt about, hey, the two running backs, like we got one of the best offensive lines, especially in the running game in the league, and we can't run the ball for crap. We're averaging 3 yards per carry. It's just not good enough. And so I think as a play caller, you got three things going on. One, you're trying to establish the run, and you feel like you're just banging your head against the wall, because if you go out there and you're one dimensional, then they're not going to respect the run, and it's going to be hard for Knicks to pass. But if you run the football and you feel like you're just burning first downs and burning second downs, and the fans, well, they're all feeling the same way. Like, why are you running it on first and second when we're not getting any yards? And then it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. The second thing is that Bo Nix was still memorizing the playbook. So Sean likes to do a lot of pre-snap motion. And that's what they do in Detroit so well. When you have an actual tight end like a Sam Laporta, who you can motion outside and then motion him back, do a dummy snap count, and then you can see, okay, they're running a man defense. I got him. That corner followed Laporta, and then he came back, and then the quarterback calls the play. But Sean was like holding a lot of his motions back because he had a rookie quarterback, and you don't want to overload him. And I think now that his confidence and he's where he's at, this is the year where you're going to see all of those motions at, all that pre-snap stuff is going to start coming into play. And the plays that Sean calls are going to look a lot spicier than they did last year. And the third thing is all of our tight ends combined for less than 500 yards receiving.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So we didn't even have a true tight end threat that we could motion out and come back, and it's like, oh, what are you going to throw it to your tight end? No, you're not. You don't have one. It's like,
and forgive me for interjecting here again. A vast chunk of those yards came from 1 or 2 games, right?
Yeah. There was, I think it was
the one-handed catch.
Day.
Yeah, that's the one. The one-handed catch to Troutman.
Trotman, Adam Trotman. That's right.
Yeah.
And watching the preseason this year, well, Evan Ingram he's going to have a massive role. And then watching the preseason, the third game against who was it that we just played? The Saints. I was watching. Yeah. I was watching Luke Crum. Crum. Is his first name Luke? That doesn't sound right. Was it Luke? Hold on. Tight end. Lucas Kroll. Lucas
Kroll. Yeah.
I saw him make 3 catches that were.
So just in regards to the tight ends, so we've let go of.
Yeah. So here it
Kroll,
is. I'll pull
Ingram,
it up.
And did we keep Troutman?
No. So this is it. We got Nate Adkins, Evan Ingram, Lucas Kroll, and Adam Trotman.
I like the fact that we kept a hold of Adkins and Troutman, because although they weren't superstars, they did what they needed to do when they needed to do it.
Yeah, and there are blocking tight ends.
Yeah.
Evan Ingram's a wide receiver. He a lot to be desired as a blocker, but Nate Adkins and Adam Trotman, they give you your actual blocking tight end motions for first down packages. And then Lucas Kroll, though, he made 3 catches in that final preseason game, where he's a guy that he was drafted Joku baseball, and he played college baseball, and then he decided to play football, and then he did Joku football, and now he's in the NFL. So he's just a raw athlete that has size and speed and moves really well. But Sean was like, you have a lot to learn before, I like the project of Lucas Kroll, but, we'll see if we can get you there. It was like Audric Estime. We like a lot of the intangibles, but we'll see if we can get in not most, but I would say a lot of the times that player, that experiment doesn't work out. But it was obvious watching the preseason this year that Lucas Kroll has made massive, massive improvements, and he was catching the ball, contested catches. He looks like, if I had one guy to be like, circle that guy, it would be Lucas Kroll. I think he is going to. Do you remember when the Broncos had Julius Thomas? He was the tight end. He ended up signing a big contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Peyton Manning's like 2013 season was
Mhm,
Julius Thomas caught a bunch of touchdowns, like had over
mhm.
10 touchdowns. And I think that's going to be Lucas Kroll this year. Is just he's going to emerge as one of the like I don't think we'll get to keep him long term because we can't pay all these guys, but
No.
I think he's going to be good this year.
Well, we may be able to pay more of them next year. I mean, we're going to be able to pay more next year, aren't we? We're off. Well, that next year is finally the end of the Wilson deal.
Yeah. Well, and we
We're
keep
free of it
paying
at
our
the end of the
guys
season, right?
early.
Mm.
You know, that's the biggest part is you pay them
On
before.
rookie contracts, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like if Sean is looking at Lucas Kroll and he goes, "Hey, this guy's only going to get better. Let's give him a 4-year contract because if we wait till the end of the year, we're going to have to pay him 200% more than what we can get right now." And then he ends up having that breakout season,
Mhm,
but he's under contract now for,
mhm.
2-3 years. It's like the opposite of the way the Cowboys run their business. It's all about it's like the stock market, and each player has a value,
Yeah.
and you
Mhm,
want to get ahead of, you want to buy low and sell high. And the
mhm.
Broncos are doing a really good job of buying low on their defense. And that's why they have so much talent on their defense under contract right now.
I yeah, I feel I think everything I like. I don't want to sort of beat a dead horse, but it sort of comes back to that play calling. It just feels like we haven't had the personnel. We are. I'm really curious about how it's all going to fit together this year. Like
Yeah.
that I can't think that's what it sort of comes down to for me this year is I don't have like this massively high expectation of us doing really well. Last year, my expectation was on the strength of the preseason games that Bonix had last year. Then we had, a little bit of a rough start. But I remember reading, particularly in the subreddit and online on Twitter, and people's would just like, oh, I want this is my ceiling and this is my floor, and I'm just like, actually, guys, as a fan base, let's just hope that even if we had I would have been happy with not winning a single game last year, as long as every game and throughout that season, you could just see development, you could see improvement, you could see my expectations were just to see a team that was clearly rebuilding, that was clearly under the shackles of the Wilson deal, that clearly did not have the personnel, that was clearly adapting to a new scheme, and that all I wanted to see was just improvement, 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 because that's what you could see was there. You could see that they had the development personnel that was there. You could see that the coaching staff was gelling more. You could see that the organization was coming together. Particularly after we had the whole ownership thing was all sorted out. Like there's so many things that go back through the history that led up to last year, sort of just being like, yeah, man, like this really feels like this year is the year for development. That's what my expectation was this year. And now last year. And now we have this year. My expectation is definitely, I think we can win. But I'm also on the fact of, man, I'm really curious. I think my energy is more curiosity more than expectation this year, I think. If I could, I don't know if it makes sense, but
It
that's
does.
what
No,
I'm really curious to see how it turns out.
it makes sense, but I have to push back a little bit because you went into the season last year saying, okay, this is, forget about the floor and the ceiling. This is a rebuilding team. And they just ate all this money from Russell Wilson's
Mhm.
contract. This is just about seeing if, these guys are the right guys and, figuring out who's who in the zoo. But
Mhm.
the problem with that is that that is what the national media thought, and that's why Denver had a 5.5 win total. That's why they
Yeah.
went into the season going, this is a team that should be drafting in the top 5 next year. Bo Nix was a reach, and they'll probably win 5 games. Well, what we found out was that these guys
Except,
that were
except was it Adam Grant? You know, he was the one that's like, hey, I'm going to pick the Broncos.
yeah, every single week. Yeah. But like what we found out was that Zach Allen was one of the best in the league. Led the NFL in quarterback pressures and quarterback hits. Nick Bonito was a defensive player of the year candidate. Nobody knew who he was before the season started. Jonathan Cooper broke out. Brandon Allen, who was considered just a downgrade from Justin Simmons or a straight swap. Brandon Allen finished top 4 in his position. And then
Riley Moss.
So Riley Moss. And like you go down the list and it's like, okay, so of course we didn't know. But that's why Sean, when he was saying this is a playoff team, we should have listened to him because he's the one that's looking at these guys every single day. And it became clear that, well, we don't have a lot of bad players. We have a lot of players that nobody knows, which is a lot different.
You can't say that because if the subreddit, the Denver Broncos subreddit, that's Super Bowl coaches in there every day. You know, they know way better because they have access to all this information that obviously Sean Payton doesn't. You know, you can't be saying that us armchair coaches who have access to hardly anything ever know less than the coaches do. That's just, you know, I think.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean?
I'm being incredibly sarcastic here because you're right. Like, you know, we sit here, you know, making all of these massive leaps and reaches, and we have all these things to say, and yet we're just staring at a computer screen and watching the game on the weekend, right? We're not the coaches. We're not in the same position. Like Sean, like you're right. You know, we should have listened.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
We should have listened, but we don't like to.
And there's also a group of fans, they want to be negative no matter what. I mean, it is just like they find a lot of joy in being overly pessimistic, and it's a defense mechanism because for a while I thought they did that because they didn't care. I came to find out that it's just there's different human behaviors, and one of them is that they care so much that they think they can prevent themselves from being let down if they never believed in the first place. So it's almost like a defense mechanism, you know, like, oh yeah, this team, they got a long way to go. I'll believe it when I see it. And that's how they protect themselves. Where me, I just tell my truth. You know, if I feel like this team isn't going to be good, I'll just say it. Of course, I'll say I want them to be good. I hope they prove me wrong. You know, it's like the pilot on the airplane. I never want him to crash. I always want him to be a good pilot. Even if I'm wrong, you know, I want to be proven wrong. But I felt like last year and this year more than any other year in my entire life, I've never felt this good. And I'm being very intentional on saying that because just like Bo Nix's success, I was able to go back and clip all of the things I said about him in the offseason and go, boom, here, look at this. Because everyone said, well, of course, you know, you think he's good now. It's like, no. I watched him, I analyzed him, and I had this opinion. I want to be able to, when Denver's in the AFC Championship game, I want to be able to go back to these interviews with Troy and say, look, I was trying to convince Troy that we were a Super Bowl team. And
okay, I'm going to ask you.
You want to believe. You want to believe.
Yeah. I have a question for you. So rather than expectations, rather than win-loss, rather than ceilings and floors, rather than player expectations, all that sort of thing, what plays, when it comes, so we have this conversation, after the season, after the Super Bowl, and we're basking in the glow of the Broncos' latest Super Bowl victory. When you look back on the season, what highlights? What you give me some plays that are going to be that you want to see in the highlight reel.
I think we're going to get a lot more Bo Nix on the run, but there's going to be it's not going to be spontaneous. But I will say, look out for the pitch, because in American football you're allowed to pitch the ball as long as it goes backwards. Well, there was a pitch that Bo Nix did against the Chiefs game where he pitched it, and they said it didn't count because he was running. And even though he pitched it backwards, because of his momentum, where he let go of the ball and where the ball was caught was technically forward. Even though he did pitch it backwards, he was running so fast that, physics.
I mean, that's just how rugby works. You're running forward, the ball is going to go forward. It's not like if you throw a ball out of your and you're driving in a car and you throw the ball, that it goes directly behind you. It's still going to travel at 80 miles an hour.
And that's why I actually sent a tweet that said the NFL needs to adopt the rugby rules. Like if a player is running and he pitches it backwards, that should be the end of the I don't like going back and like marking where he, like, what are we doing? Did he throw it backwards or not? Let's not evaluate like that. Let's not get into the weeds on it. Let's just say, did it go backward? But anyway, because of this stupid rule, the play was wiped out. And I think what we're going to see this year is we're going to see a lot more designed runs with Bo Nix and a lot more spontaneous pitching. I think you're going to get that's going to be one of your big highlights is Bo Nix rolling out of the pocket, running, and right when he's about to get tackled, he's going to pitch the ball, and it'll probably be Marvin Mims. That's just my feeling, and he's going to go for another 25, maybe a touchdown.
McLaughlin, Mims, they're great in that.
I think I was at the Bengals game last year where he threw the Marvin Mims touchdown pass. The one that went 67 air yards.
Yeah.
And then he high-fived the fan. I was that fan he high-fived. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't, but I was there. It was so crazy to see. But you see Sean wants to let Bo Nix throw it downfield. I think week 1, I think the first play of the game, Sean is going to throw, whether it's complete or not, I don't know. But I think Bo Nix, Sean's going to have something fun dialed up because it's a home opener. And I just think Sean's going to go out there. There's going to be some kind of trick play. And Bo Nix is going to throw the ball 60 yards downfield. And if that's complete, that's going to be exciting. Remember last year, the first play of the game was an interception by our defense. And I was so stoked. I was like, we're going to win the game, and we lost. I think you're going to get
that was the Seahawks, right? The first game.
Yeah, Seattle.
Yeah, that you could see that first game. That was a tough loss because you could see that there was definitely something happening.
Missing.
Even in that first game. Yeah, there was something different. There was something like that was if things just had it aligned a little bit more, I think, maybe an extra preseason game, or just
an extra 2, because the next week against the Steelers, it was the same thing where something was just a little off and we lost both of them. And I put $500 on the Broncos to win 5.5 games. And once they started 0-2, they offered me $350 and I took it. I took it. I'm such a hypocrite because I'm like, I believe, and then we're 0-2, and I just got
Mhm.
this, it's been 10 years in a row of me believing,
Mhm.
to some extent I believed in Russell Wilson. I thought, oh, here we go again. Let me just take the 350. And then, by week 5, I was like, yeah, we're going to be good. We're getting better. We beat Tampa Bay, week
Mhm.
3, and that's when everything changed for us. From week
But
3 to week 18, we were having a good time. Even on the games we lost, they were fun. Week 1 and week
is it
2 were not fun.
No, they were not fun. They were not fun. Particularly when you got dunked on by the media of like,
Yeah,
see, we told
exactly.
you, you suck again.
I'm going to miss that because
Mm.
we're not going to get a
Mm.
lot of that this year. And all those people that said Bo Nix won't be a franchise quarterback, they're not going to come out and apologize. You're just going to turn their show on one day and they're going to put Bo Nix in a tier 3 of quarterbacks, and they won't
Mhm.
even explain it. They will just move on like
Mhm.
nothing happened.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm talking about Nick Wright.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. You
Yeah.
really did. I was just like, that dude, man, aside from his face and that
Yeah. I
haircut.
just want to punch him.
But I think the players that I'm going to answer my own question because I like to hear myself talk. Um, um, I want to see the Bonix is just a check down king. I want to see that meme myth blown out of the water.
Yeah.
I mean, you can work the stats last year, and to some extent his college career. You can work the stats to kind of make that case. I don't think it's that.
No. Because
I
he
don't
was
think it's
top 5 in
that.
quarterbacks in throws 20 or
Mhm,
more yards,
mhm, mhm.
but people
And
will
so
keep saying
I
it.
want to see that. I want to see that dead and buried. That's and and I think the I think it's going to be this year, and the why I would make that case is because of what you were mentioning before, the tight ends. That was always a big hole in where Bo could pass to. We just didn't have that, available. If we have some, um, if we have some more avenues, and the outside receiver core, I think Sutton could have been a lot better last year, but I feel like we've got a few more tools in the wide receiver department this year. Pat Bryant looks so good. I'm really excited to see him get some more receptions. So I really feel like that is going to be that's what I want to see in the highlight reel last year. I want to see a bunch more of those big air yard passes. I want to see Ingram in the middle of the field. Like he made some really good plays where the ball wasn't going to him in the preseason. A couple of those plays for
Yeah.
Ingram, he made some. He opened it up that middle of the field just like I haven't seen before for a big dude. We just haven't had that, and I
You
think
see the
it's going
receivers
to.
running down to block for him too.
Yeah, that was Franklin, and again, we haven't even talked about Franklin, like how he's
Broke
really
out.
improved this year. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was
So Bryant, Franklin,
on defense.
you know,
Who was it
it's
on
good.
defense? There, Ellis,
Jado Barron,
Jonah Ellis.
Jonah Ellis, yeah, yeah. Like
Um,
it's just
we haven't even
the
talked
depth.
about Jonah Ellis.
No, no. I mean,
This team
there's
is
53 of them. There's 53 of them on the field, right? So
it's
on
crazy.
the
Like,
team, but, yeah.
and if you look at Abrams Drain, he's our 5th corner. He's the best 5 in the NFL. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
like Surtan's the best 1 in the NFL.
mm-hmm,
I think by the
mm-hmm.
end of the season, Riley Moss will be the best 2. I think McMillan,
Good, yeah,
Jaquan McMillan,
Jaquan McMillan, yeah.
Surtain has been saying, because Kay Adams asked Surtain, who's the one player like you would tell fans like watch for this guy, like he's
Mm-hmm.
just killing it in camp. He said it was Jaquan McMillan, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, wow, could you imagine just like two more guys like a McMillan and a Jonah Ellis that emerge into superstars, and
Mm-hmm.
that's with Hufanga or Greenlaw. Just one of those two plays at a Pro Bowl level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, what is the real ceiling to this defense? Because I think it's like the 85 Bears, the 2025 Broncos. Like, I'm looking at this defense and I'm like, that's why at the end of the day, it comes down to the players. Like, the players
Mm-hmm.
are gonna, they're like, if they don't believe that they can be great, they're just gonna be a very talented, good defense. But if
Mm-hmm.
they really like walk into what's laid out in front of them right now, like the history, that they're handing the Broncos defense the pen, and they're gonna write how they will be remembered. And that's why Sean went public saying, hey, I've
Mm-hmm.
coached 7 Super Bowl teams, teams that I thought could win a Super Bowl. This is one of them, because there's a lot of young guys in that locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean's like, I need you guys to know that what we have in here is special. And you only
Mm-hmm.
get, how long have I been coaching? I said 7 times that I've been in this kind of situation. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to take this for granted. You're not going to be around a team like this every single year. We got a couple opportunities to do this thing, and this is one of them. And it's up to you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I firmly believe that it comes back to my sort of outsider sort of view of it, that the teams, the sports that I am mostly exposed to and have grown up with are basketball, rugby, cricket, but I guess the most direct comparison for a winter sport would be rugby, right? And rugby is played by 15 people on the team, on the field at the same time. And those guys are on their offense, defense, and while there are superstars and absolute legends of the game, players that just clearly stand head and shoulders above the rest of the the incredibly amazing players that they are, the game is still primarily a team sport, and everything relies on that whole entire the unit operating as a team. It's always fascinated me, and when it comes to the NFL, how those two dynamics are so far apart. I'm talking the dynamic of the individual and the dynamic of the team. They are paradoxically so entirely far apart from each other, because there's just one quarterback, and he's doing this like he touches the ball once, twice, and it's up to another guy, right? So that you have this. It comes down to one individual person making one play at one moment in one game. So that's that individual thing. And then you have the teams like, okay, well then now the team obviously has to contribute and everyone's got to do their thing. But it's always been really, I think that's one of the aspects of the game that maybe that is not sort of talked about enough, because that's, again, it comes to this is how it is. You've grown up with it. It's just, yeah, well, of course it's like this. But to come from the outside and to see that so different, when we're used to games where the team operates all the time as a team unit, that dynamic between the superstar, the player, and how you're talking about how breakout players like Benito, like everyone has their role to play, but it's still within that team. It's a really,
yeah, like one player has the power to make or break it. Where in other sports, like the ones you're mentioning, it's like everybody has an equal piece of the pie, and you don't know with football, you don't know who's going to have that moment. It's different every week.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I'd love to just have a complete sort of conversation with a lot of other people, with a lot of other fans about this. And it comes down to the quarterback, right? And maybe this is a little bit of a tangent, but just from an outsider perspective, one of the things I've always thought about the NFL is that there's this interesting dynamic where arguably the quarterback is the most important position on the team, right? And in the entire game. So on any one weekend, you have 200 million people in the States and around the world potentially watching a game of a weekend of NFL, and it comes down to 32 people. 30 out of
that's not that many.
8 billion people on the planet. Hopes and dreams of hundreds of millions of people come down to 32 people. Well, maybe 30 on a bye week, right? 28 on a bye week, whatever, right? So there's some teams play, but yeah, it's like these quarterbacks, and I'm thinking, it's from an outside perspective, it's like the amount of and the vast majority of our conversations, right, would be around quarterback. No one is sitting down to watch Tim Jenkins, dissect film on a right tackle,
Right.
every week.
The offensive line doesn't get enough love.
No, but I'm just
Quinn Martinez didn't get voted in the top 100.
That's mad. It's crazy.
And did you see he signed my arm?
I did. I saw that on the on your intro. It was awesome. Yeah.
I couldn't. That's like, is that just like an American stupid thing? Like typical dumb American got a tattoo of a player.
No, people are stupid everywhere, so you get past. I was just saying, when it comes to also what my point I'm trying to waffle on about is the fact that we get to this point where my sort of looking at the game, I'm thinking, is there something wrong with the game when there are only a couple of teams on any one week that have
I can hear you.
Oh yeah, good. So what I was going to say was that there's only a certain number of quarterbacks that perform really well, right? So maybe we're talking out of those 32 quarterbacks, maybe only half a dozen of them are actually having a really good game. So I look at the discourse that happens around the conversation about the game, and I'm thinking, is there something actually wrong with the game? Where is the game too hard? Is the game too complicated? Is there something structurally wrong with the game? Is there something organizationally wrong with the game? Is there something where the fact that it all boils down to just this small number of individuals, the quarterbacks, having the impact that they have on the game as a whole and how the team performs as a whole? It just seems crazy to me, the lengths that we go to justify and vilify a player. Let's pick. Actually, there was a really interesting video that came out in the last few days, maybe in the last week, and it's called "We Still Don't Know." We still don't know why a team is or who is good at football. I'll send you the link, and it was amazing because the dude talked about Sam Darnold, for example. There's actually 4 versions of Sam Darnold, and you go from the getting dumped at the Jets to and maybe not even playing really at San Francisco, and then I forget the other team he played for,
Minnesota.
But then lighting it on fire with the Vikings, and then you're like,
it's the coaching.
Okay, so, but also, that's what I'm saying. But it's also the Jets, but it's also the individual.
Well, the Jets can't have success with any quarterback, and it's like at what point is it's like a human. If you've had 10 relationships and every single one of them you've been cheated on, and like at some point you're picking the wrong people. It's
Yeah,
like
you need to look at the common denominator, right?
look within. It's like when people say every time I come here my order gets messed up. You're messing it up then, because if every time you come here your order gets messed up, look within. I feel like when it comes to Sam Darnold, like there's a handful of coaches, and that's why they're so invaluable. Sean McVay with the Rams, Kevin O'Connell with the Minnesota Vikings, Sean Payton with the Broncos, Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
These coaches are quarterback whisper. Kyle Shanahan's the fifth.
Mm-hmm.
These
Mm-hmm.
guys will take any quarterback. They will identify what they do well, and then they're going to, play the music that they dance to the
Mm-hmm.
best.
Mm-hmm.
Where a lot of other coaches, they force players to fit their scheme instead of, hey, let me be creative with my scheme and build it around the player. And only a handful of coaches know how to do that. The Jets can't figure it out. The Panthers can't figure it out. The 49ers and the Vikings, I think both would had success with Sam Darnold. I don't know how I feel about the Seahawks this year with Sam Darnold.
My pushback on that would be is around the question of the game as a whole versus and one quarterback is if what am I trying to say here? Okay, maybe look at it this way. Why does every team not have 3 quarterbacks that are almost at the same skill level? And you could put any one of those 3 on the team and play that. Any one of those 3 guys could play that game and perform just as well. They each have their strengths and weaknesses. Why is that not the case? Is that because that, and that to me from an outsider surely comes down to the fact that are we asking too much of these guys? Is the game as a whole asking too much of the game, of these guys? Is it the fact that maybe we should have 5 downs instead of 4? Maybe is it the fact that we should be doing ABC instead of XYZ when it comes to quarterback safety? Or do we need to have 2? Do we need to? Is there not enough guys on the field? Or is it too hard? Is it too easy? Like, that's what I'm saying. Is like,
do you
when you
feel
have a
like
game,
it's too hard or too easy?
I mean,
because
when you're at the level of some of these athletes, you're at the level of some of these athletes,
I feel like there's never
some
been
of these guys make it look easy, right?
There's never been this many elite quarterbacks at once.
Yeah, but hang on, Kyle. What I'm saying is, you say this many. When you say this many, are you saying there's 15 instead of 10?
No, I'm saying there's
Or
only,
are you saying that
there's only like 3 teams that don't have their quarterback.
But that's still 29 guys.
But that's like saying in basketball, like, why isn't everybody as good as Michael Jordan? Is there something wrong with basketball? It's like,
no,
that's what makes those players what they are, is that they're great at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the greatness doesn't come down to the coaching that they had. If you really look at Tom Brady, it had to do with how he prepared for his opponents, which really comes down to dedication. Like, I can't.
I thought it was all because of his. I thought it was all because of his 40 time at the
combine. Because if you have, you have a handful of quarterbacks, but 10% of them are dedicated at being the very best at what they do, and they wake up before you and they stay up later than you, and they have blurry-eyed nights of studying film, and
my point remains the same, Kyle. My point remains the same. It's still an incredibly tiny number of human beings that can perform at that level. You look at the drop off between the
college.
No, the drop off between a starter and a backup.
Yeah, that's because that's what makes the sport amazing, is that everybody's
But
searching for one, but you can't just go pick one up,
no, no,
right?
no.
You
But
gotta strike gold.
that is true. That is true. I do agree with you, and that does make the game amazing to watch. Just, I mean, the catch that you talked about before, um, and the pass, and that Bo Nix made to at the Bengals game. Those are the moments. Like, those are the hole-in-one moments. So that's why people go and play golf. Because they
Yeah,
hit a
it's
great shot.
addicting. It's an
They
adrenaline shot in your
yeah.
veins.
But still though,
You want more of
would
those?
it be healthier? Well, yeah, would it be healthier for the game overall and our mental health as fans if there was something about the game that meant we could have more of those moments rather than less of those moments?
I would vote no. I don't want that. Personally, I don't, because that's like me wanting steak every night. It's like
Mm,
there's something special about those moments and you not knowing when they're going to come. That's why we watch, is because we're waiting for that moment. I mean, I'm a bad golfer, but I go
mhm,
golfing all the time because that one shot that I hit 200 yards out that comes 5 feet within the hole, that might
mhm,
happen one time in 18
mhm,
holes of golf. And that's the moment that makes me want to go back. Like
mhm.
football, if you told me every time I turned the game on, I would get those plays multiple times per game, it would be
I'm not
like,
saying
it's like I got an example. This is why nobody watches the NBA All-Star game, because the whole game is what you're suggesting. Would it
no.
NFL, you're saying, would it be better if they had more of those moments? We've already done the trial on that. Nobody watches
Mhm,
the Pro Bowl. Nobody watches the
no.
NBA All-Star game because you can't even you get numb to it. It's like if you're just like, you get numb to those moments, and then those moments don't carry the same weight, and once you lose those moments, the game loses everything.
I'm not okay. Maybe if I approach it from this perspective, I'm not asking for Pro Bowl All Star games every weekend. What I am asking for, what I would like, is to not go 10 years from Peyton Manning to Bo Nix.
Well, we
You
didn't
know,
have we if we had Sean Payton, we wouldn't have.
yeah, I know, but what I'm trying to say is, and that's not just the Broncos, right? That's multiple teams over multiple seasons where the their entire franchise, the success of their season is defined by one dude passing the ball. And my simple question is the fact that it has it the it only the difference between a successful season or even a moderately good season where a nominally average sane fan would be going, oh yeah, no, I'm happy. That was a good. I didn't expect to win the Super Bowl. I didn't expect to go 0-17, but I'm happy with my team. We had some great games. We had some, I'm talking about having the feeling as a fan where you're like, man, like, he's good, but is it like, why is it only a handful of guys that can give us those hole-in-one experiences? My
Well,
question isn't about improving the game to an extent where you have those
you're
Pro Bowl
saying like,
experiences. My
I
improve,
get what you're saying. The problem
yeah,
is, though, it doesn't fit the culture of the game. Like the fans, like leaving the game and being like, I know we lost, but at the end of
hmm
the day, like I still had a good time. That does
hmm
happen. Like
hmm
I went to the Bengals game. I had those moments, those
hmm
Marvin Mims. We lost the game. It's the best
hmm
game I've ever been to. So
hmm
like even when we do lose, like it's it's not like it's all depressing, you know? I
hmm
wasn't depressed. I was mad
Okay,
that
hang
we
on. So
lost the
maybe,
game, but
maybe,
I had a
maybe
great time.
yeah, maybe I'm being naive and coming to this sort of asking these sorts of questions because, like I said
No, I
before, I
like
have
it.
not
I'm just trying to
grown up with it.
understand.
Yeah, I say maybe. Okay, how about this? For example, say something as simple as a fifth down. Like, okay, what would it do for a quarterback who is to have just that one extra down? Like,
I don't.
like,
I
I
mean,
know,
you.
I know the complexity of the game means that the amount of brain power that goes into scheming a game every weekend is insane. The amount of, if all the NFL coaches on offense and defense put that put that brain power every week just to scheme for a game, to solving world peace and world hunger, I'm sure we would be the most docile and well-fed population on planet Earth,
Right.
simply for the fact that the amount of smart, stupidly intelligent people come up with these schemes. And I know that, say, an extra down would be like giving the fox complete access to the free reign of the hen house type sort of situation. But I'm just
I
simply
don't
sort
think
of
it would
thinking,
change that much.
just the
No,
fact that
I
maybe the
if
quarterback just had something to make it. Yeah,
more what? Because that's really what I'm trying to. In order for me to understand your question, I need to know what your conclusion is. Like, what are we?
the outcome, simply for
What
the
is the
fact of the
outcome?
outcome
Your
of the
desired
entire
outcome?
game not come down to that one person, because
But
often it could
that
be,
would
right.
be the worst thing we could do for the game, is
Uh-huh.
to make it so that the game doesn't come down to a moment. Because it's like, oh,
But
it's
it
like if
does.
I said your
It
life,
does
if I
almost every
said
weekend. It does, right?
it's like if I said your life is
No, I'm not
about,
saying a moment. I'm saying one person,
right, this is
not a
what I'm
moment,
trying to say.
but just one person. Yeah.
If I say, yeah, life comes down to moments, and in a life, a full life is all those moments put together. A football
Mm-hmm.
game doesn't come down to one player. It may appear
Mm-hmm.
that way when you have, for instance, the tight end for the Baltimore Ravens drop the 2-point conversion and everybody's pointing at him. But we had a fumbled snap in the first quarter that resulted in points for the other team. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can look back on a game and you can see multiple moments that turned the outcome. We call them game altering plays, where it
Mm-hmm.
altered the game. The one thing that we can't really put our finger on is what
Mm-hmm.
momentum is.
Mm-hmm.
We can feel it when we're in it, and you can even see it through your television, but you don't really know what it is. But
Mm-hmm.
besides energy, it's like love.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to define, but you can feel it when you're in it. Um, these momentum shifting plays, they happen maybe 3 or 4 times throughout a football game. But the drop ball on third down that would have extended a drive, and maybe that next play would have been a touchdown, but instead you're punting it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you could go back to our Buffalo Bills playoff game, and there were so many drop balls on third down that would have resulted in a first down, and maybe Denver and Buffalo would have gotten into a shootout back and forth. We'll never know, because our players, not in one moment, let us down, but in moments throughout the whole game, collectively made bad plays, dropped good passes, didn't, make the right read, whatever the case is. So as a fan, it's easy to sit back and say, Mark Andrews dropped the 2-point conversion. He's the reason we lost the game. But that's just a lazy analysis, because if you go
Mm-hmm.
back and watch the game, what it is it's dozens and dozens of missed assignments, missed blocks, drop passes, blocked punt, sacked quarterbacks, because he didn't realize, his protection. So I get what you're saying. Like, I don't want. Why does Mark Andrews have to, be the guy that had the whole game in his control? But
Mhm.
even if it comes down to a moment, it's never that moment in the grand scheme of things. It was all of the
Mhm.
moments collectively that led to this one moment. And yeah,
Mhm.
this one moment is worth a lot because of what's at stake. But you wouldn't have to go for two if you were playing with a lead, but instead you're playing from behind. So there's an illusion that it comes down to a player, but it always comes
Mhm.
down to the team, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
I think the perspective. I mean, what sort of led me to have these sort of thoughts was primarily how terrible our quarterback situation has been. You know, um, and except for Kendall Hinton, Hall of Famer quarterback.
He is in there.
Yeah,
He is in the Hall
ring of fame at least.
of Fame.
You
No, he's
um,
actually in the Hall of Fame. His game worn jersey from that game's in the Hall of Fame.
I love it. I did not know that. But okay, so and and again, it sort of also comes back to my experience of watching sport here in New Zealand being primarily a team game. Like it's not just down to one guy making the snap decision at the snap that's going to dictate how the flow of the game goes, right? And so then I sort of thought, well, why is it that? And then it's the drop off between um, uh, starter and backup. Although this year, man, Stidham's game against the Cardinals was awesome. Like
Oh
I don't know
yeah,
if I've ever seen him play that well, right? And
it's
then,
because Sean
but
Payton.
then yeah, but then okay. So then here's an interesting. So then I started thinking about it, right? And I looked at some numbers, and I just had a double check. There's almost 14,000 high schools in America that play uh, football, and let's say it's only each of those has a team, right? So there's and they're going to have some backups, and they might have two teams, and some high schools are big and they've got multiple teams or whatever. But of course, there's always going to be the number ones. So let's say that there's every year in America, in the States, every year there's 15,000 quarterbacks that begin to play the game.
Mhm.
So then, and then of course you take that through to college, and then and it's a pyramid, of course. So
Yep.
so my question, I guess, comes down to: what is it about the game? And I'm totally on board with everything you're saying. What is it about the game that means that out of that potential crop of all the college quarterbacks, all the backups, all the practice squad guys, all of the high school phenoms, and all this sort of stuff, you've got tens of thousands of just dudes that can play quarterback. How come? What is it that means that us as fans have this roller coaster experience, and some franchises never find their guy, some guy, and that means out of those tens of thousands of dudes that can throw the football, only 20 really excel at it. Is it about the game? And as you as a fan have grown up with that, so your expectation is what you have. You can't change that. But then I'm coming from the outside and going, okay, well, does the ball need to be smaller? Does does it need to be a lot more deflated? If
Well,
you're a
if
Patriots fan, does it
if there's
does it like
15
just I don't
if
know.
there was 15,000 high school quarterbacks and 10,000 of them went on to play college
College.
football, and the NFL was, let's say, a little bit easier, and let's say out of this 10,000, um, let's say 5,000 of them made it to the NFL. Okay.
Mhm.
There's still only 32 teams.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
out of those
But then
5,000,
that's my point. You hit the nail on the head. That is exactly my point. There is only 32 teams. So you would think, just based off, you know, just based off my hairless brain, which is very smooth on the inside here, it's just as smooth as the outside. I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, so maybe my ideas are just dumb. But all I'm saying is, yeah, you're right. Should there not therefore be at least maybe like, would you not expect there to be at least a seriously hard competition between two players? At least you could say, surely
there
there
is
must be
right now.
massive competition between a backup and a starter.
Right now, Shador Sanders
Every
and
year.
Dylan Gabriel are battling to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. The Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones have been battling all summer for the starting job. Now, Patrick Mahomes isn't going to battle with his second string quarterback for the job that he's proven that he's one of the greatest to ever do it. So like if there was, it doesn't matter if we had 15,000 quarterbacks in the NFL. At the end of the day, you would take them all into camp and then the best one would be the one you would start. And then the guy that came in second place would be his backup. And the guy that came in third place would be the third string quarterback. And out of those 15,000, maybe 15 of them would be like Michael Jordan good. It was like, this guy is special. And then you have your tier 2 where it's like they weren't quite as good as Michael Jordan because not everybody can be as good as Michael Jordan. But they were definitely special and there was something there. Those are your quarterbacks that the Jets and the Bears keep landing on. Why? Because they're not at some point, it's not about because they're stuck in tier 2 quarterbacks. It's because when they had all the quarterbacks in a room, they picked the wrong one. The teams that Patrick Mahomes was not supposed to be a first, overall draft pick. But if we went back and drafted today, he would go number 1. But back then, Andy Reid, and that's what makes him so great. He saw something, and so did Sean Payton, where he moved up into the draft, and Sean was getting ready to draft Patrick Mahomes, but then Andy Reid jumped him and drafted Patrick Mahomes. So it's not that it's like you can't have every quarterback as good as Patrick Mahomes. And
no, I'm not asking for that.
Have every coach identify. That's the big mystery of the game is drafting the quarterback, right? Because a lot of teams swing and they miss. And the real question is what goes into drafting a successful quarterback? Because 60% of quarterbacks drafted in the first round don't even sign a second contract with their drafted team. So it is there. You have almost a better chance of missing on your quarterback than you have a chance of hitting. And but
that's my question, Kyle. That's my question
that's why I'm saying
why?
It comes down to evaluating talent. Because the teams that know how to evaluate the quarterback, they keep drafting the good ones. Like Sean Payton knew Drew Brees was good. He knew He knew Patrick Mahomes was good. He knew Bo Nix was good. The Bears just hopped on the hype train. The media said Caleb Williams was the best, so we're just going to take that guy. The media said Brock Purdy was undraftable, and he was taken with the last pick in the NFL draft. He just signed a $100 million contract. So it all comes. It's not like Brock Purdy's don't exist. They're everywhere. But only a couple quarterbacks can identify them. A couple coaches can identify them. And that's what makes those coaches so special. And that's why I say our 10-year drought of not having a good quarterback, we would have never been in it if we had Sean Payton. Because one thing John Elway can't do, as good of a quarterback he was, he can't evaluate talent. He missed on every quarterback he drafted, and he skipped Josh Allen to draft Bradley Chubb. It's not like they weren't available. We just skipped them. That's on us. That's not on the quarterbacks. That's our fault. So it just comes down to those two things. It's like you have to be able to evaluate talent, and you have to, you have to understand that only 25% of them are going to be, the top fourth of, the top tier in the NFL.
So what
naturally, that's just the way it is.
In your opinion and experience, what is the difference between what's the difference between a starter, a consistent, reliable starter, and a backup who you're a little bit, he's our backup.
Yeah.
We like him as a backup, but we wouldn't, we're not going to rely on him winning games for us, but he's going to fill a hole. What makes the difference? How would you define the difference? What is that difference to you?
So I would say three things. One of them is skill set. All right. How powerful
to do what?
To throw the football, right? Okay. The ability to make
accuracy.
Maybe you can't distance. Have your foot set. Maybe you're on the run and you got to throw it across your body, and you still can, muster enough power to throw it 60 yards. That just raw talent that John Elway had, that gunslinger arm. Okay. So that's a gift, right? If I had that, I would have gone on to play football. That's my whole life. I wanted to be a pro football player. So I know why I didn't, because genetics didn't allow it, right? It's not that complicated. I was not good enough to do it. So then you have the second thing, which is the processing. How fast can you process? The defense is running this, I'm running this, which means that if this guy does this, this is where I'm going with the ball. And, I got to do an audible, and you got to do it all under 20 seconds. And then not just know it, but be able to execute it, right? So a lot of it is up here. I mean, you look at Peyton Manning. He does not, if you ran into him at the grocery store, you would not think you're a world-class athlete, but he was so smart that he could pick you apart because he was always 2 steps ahead of you. So that is what, that is another just like rare skill set, where this game is so hard and you have to be very, very smart to excel at the quarterback level. And then the third thing is you have to have the right coaching. Like, you come into the NFL, but if you go into the wrong environment, they can destroy your career. I mean, you got a lot of guys who went on to be great college athletes that got drafted to a program where they didn't know how to develop talent, and their careers were ruined in 4 years. So there's a lot of players too that, like Denver, right? Look at Nick Bonito and all these guys that we've been drafting. Nick Bonito didn't break out till last year, but we've had him for 3 years. That tells you that our talent developing staff is doing a great job, because every single year, even though it was being quietly done, Nick Bonito was getting better and better and better. So you have to have a great development staff on your team. You have to have a quarterback that is very fast at processing information, and he's dedicated to the books. He's got to want to study. He's got to want to be a Peyton Manning type quarterback. And then 3, you just have to have these God-given gifts. These are gifts that you can't work out enough to achieve. You have to just have these things that, hey, I can throw a ball 70 yards. I don't know why, but I can. Those are some of the gifts that people would give a left arm or a right leg probably to be able to throw a football. But for whatever reason, there's only a handful of people that have these type of arms, the Josh Allen and Mahomes type. And outside of them, it's like there's them and there's everyone else, because
is that I'm having every now hearing you talk as a passionate fan of not just the Broncos, but of the sport in general. and again, it's my outsider perspective. I'm thinking about a comment that you made much earlier in our conversation in regards to being in a relationship. And I'm sort of thinking, some of the things that you're saying are not wrong, but they also could be because that's just how it is for you. Whether it's right or it's wrong, that's just how it is for you, right? And so then
Like
I also
what?
come back to basketball, right? Okay, so so what I'm saying is, the three things that you mentioned, right? The skill, the brains, and the coaching that they've had, right? So those are three things. So let's just take the first two, for example. So if you take basketball and you said, and I think basketball is a slightly different because all five people, dudes on the, all 10 guys on the court at one time are playing this. They're defending and they're on defense and they're on offense. They share those roles, and they can all shoot. There's nothing really stopping any one of those dudes from putting up points, right?
Right.
At a basic level.
Right.
But because the NFL is so specialized and the ultimate specialty, you'd have to say out of every single sport on the entire planet, the quarterback is the most specialized position on any sort of team, in any team sport, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get at here is you talk about the processing, you talk about the brain power, the processing, the skill level, and the coaching. Let's say, for example, and so you are used to an environment. Let's say you are used to an environment where the basketball rim is a certain height, it's a certain diameter, the ball is a certain diameter, right? And that's just how it is. But let's say those same conditions exist now, but you've grown up in an environment where the shooting percentage of the NBA is 38%. From the line and from the outside. And 3 points is 10%, right? And you're like, yeah, but that's just how it is because the diameter of the hoop is 6 inches. It's not, it's 6 inches and the ball is 5.99 inches and it's 30 feet high. There's only a certain number of guys that can play the sport, and it's amazing because we just love it because it shows the skill level of all these guys. And then someone comes along and says, and then only one, 2 or 3 teams are dominant. It's the Chicago Bulls win everything for 15 years, not just 3 and 4 or 5 in a row.
Michael Jordan.
And that's because, and then you're like, that's because it's just these one half a dozen guys. And then someone comes along and says, oh, well, why don't we just drop it and make it a little bit bigger so that the shooting percentage rises and the competition is more, is all a rising tide floats all boats, right? And so then you go, oh shit, the rim's a little bit wider and the ball's a little bit smaller and it's a little bit lower, and all of a sudden the shooting percentage goes up to 60%, and everyone's like, shit, yeah, this is actually, everyone's enjoying it now, everyone's having a game. What I'm trying to say is there's something about the quarterback position and the game as a whole where the game can adapt to make the rim height a little bit lower, the ball a little bit smaller, the rim diameter to be a little bit, so that instead of us talking about 2 or 3 quarterbacks excelling every one weekend and the majority of them sucking with just an abysmal QBR, is there something that can be done to raise the quality of the play, not simply by expecting genius level super athletes to be the only ones that can play the game each week?
Well, I think there's like three things I would say about that. One is that we have a responsibility to protect the integrity of the game, and
Mm-hmm.
we can't we the game is, and this is just my opinion, the game
Mm-hmm.
as it's played is perfect. I have a couple things that I would tweak. For instance, like they just made it a rule that you have to declare you're kicking an onside kick. I think that is a baloney rule, and I think it makes the game worse. The whole
Yeah,
point of an onside kick is that you
is the
can try to
surprise.
steal a possession, and
Yeah.
it's such a low percentage of success. Why would
Mm-hmm.
you make it harder by
Mm-hmm.
ruling out the surprise onside kick? So
Mm-hmm.
there's little things like that, but overall, as a whole, the game that I grew up watching is still the same game that I watch on Sunday. They haven't
Mm-hmm.
made any massive changes. They haven't added a down. They haven't, changed. Now we play on the 70-yard field. They haven't done any major changes. I mean, they've made it so the defenseless receivers and the concussions and all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
if I just woke up and it was 2005 and I watched a game, would I be able to tell you that the game I'm watching now is I could tell I'm in a different era? I couldn't. Besides the way they dress and their helmets, the
Mm-hmm.
game itself is exactly the same. And I feel like in now the baton will be passed to my generation, and we have a responsibility to protect the integrity of the game and hope that
Mm-hmm.
the generation underneath us loves the game as much as we did as children, so
Mm-hmm.
that when we have to pass it to them, they will do the same thing. And in the changing something just for the sake of changing something is no good reason to change. The only
I agree.
reason
I agree.
that
I agree.
the only reason I think we should change something is if we are almost 95 or higher percent that it will make the game better, because
Mm-hmm.
we have something that is so perfect. You have to be very careful. You never want to, great is not overrated. It's like you're in a very great marriage, and you're like, oh, but maybe there's one out there that's better. That is never a good place to be in, whether it's a relationship. It's really important just to appreciate what you have. And this game
Mm-hmm.
that we've been gifted is
Mm-hmm.
so perfect. It is the perfect amount of challenging, but it is not so challenging that there's no points scored. It's
Yeah.
like there's still, there's still 40 to 45 point games, and then there's the Bears and the Seahawks, so it's 0 to
Mm-hmm.
3 or 3 to 6 final score. So the
Mm-hmm.
the variety that you get, even though the rules are the same, one game's 3 to 6, the other one's
Mm-hmm.
55 to 52. Same rules, but a totally different outcome. And every week
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what you're going to get. And then the third thing I would say is lowering the bar for inclusivity is just against the American spirit. Like,
Oh, no, no, no. You miss. No, I 100% agree, and I'm all for a meritocracy in sport. I guess, what maybe I could ask you the question in this way: Would the would when Monday Night Football is all said and done, and the Tuesday morning dissections begin of the weekend of sport, do you think that weekend of sport would be that weekend of games would be more enjoyable, satisfying, and overall more positive for all of the fans in the game if all the level of all the quarterbacks was closer to each other
um,
than it is now?
I feel, and I'm not dodging the question, but I feel that what you're asking is an impossible outcome. And it's a hypothetical that would never exist, because
Mm-hmm.
you in anything, whether you're talking lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
professional athletes, in any profession, there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be there's going to be a small percentage of them that are better, right?
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason. We don't
Mm-hmm.
know. You know, what makes Tom Brady Tom Brady? What made Peyton Manning Peyton Manning?
Mm-hmm.
Now, would the game be better if there was 32 Tom Brady's? I honestly don't know, but I do know that it would never happen
No,
because
no. I'm just simply like if it was just the difference wasn't the difference between Tom Brady and
the
Paxton Lynch.
talent margin. I mean,
Tom
I think
Brady and Paxton Lynch both
I really
were
don't think it's
people
that
at
big of a gap. I mean,
Mm,
you got Lamar Jackson, you
mm-hmm,
got Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, uh, Jalen Hurts.
mm-hmm.
You got guys like Trevor Lawrence that
Yeah. Mm,
still were like Peyton Manning type players coming into the NFL. Only
mm-hmm,
lost one game in Clemson in 2 years, and he
mm-hmm,
like you have just so many quarterbacks. I mean, Jordan Love, Jared Goff. You go into the NFC West, and you got Brock Purdy, who's having a time. Kyler Murray, a #1 overall pick out of college. You know, the best in his draft class. And
mm-hmm,
then you got the Seahawks, who you just mentioned, Sam Darnold, who's doing his thing right now. You go
mm-hmm,
in Carolina, you got another #1 overall pick in Bryce Young. So, like,
mm-hmm,
you got a ton of quarterbacks who, for their 1 year, they were the best. They were the Tom Brady of their
mm-hmm,
college. And then they went into the league with all of the Tom Brady's. So it's like
mm-hmm,
it's already happened, what you're kind of asking for, because the Tom Brady of college every year comes into the NFL and takes over a team. The question
mm-hmm,
is, once Tom Brady comes into the league with all the other Tom Brady's, will the real Tom Brady please stand up? And then
mm-hmm.
we find out who is who. But like, to say that, we got like, Canadian Football League quarterbacks going against Tom Brady every Sunday, that's not the case. It's like very rare that a team just like has to put a guy on the field that looks like he doesn't even belong. Like, we know 95% of the starting.
We've done that twice.
Right. And but
Philip,
that was
Philip
our
Lindsay and
fault.
Kendall Hinton,
That was
right?
our fault. I
Yeah,
feel like that was on
yeah,
us. Like, I mean, look, even
yeah,
Joe Flacco had more
yeah.
success with Shane Steichen in Indianapolis 7 years after being with us than he
Mm.
had with us, because we
What is it
didn't
you think
have.
I'm trying to say? What is it? What does it think? What do you think I'm trying to get at? Like, what do you think
If
I'm
there
trying to say?
wasn't such a if there wasn't such a big margin between the best quarterbacks in our league and the bottom quarterbacks in
Mm-hmm,
our league, and it was more on the same playing field, the level of
mm-hmm,
competition would be better because the games would be closer. There would be no
mm-hmm,
juggernauts in every single week. You really didn't know who was going to win or who was going to lose. But
mm-hmm,
I will say this, that last year there was like 80% of football games were decided in the final 2 minutes. So if
mm-hmm,
you're trying to do better than that, that's about as close as it gets. There was
mm-hmm,
actually a sports betting commercial that said the 80% of games were decided in the final 2 minutes. So, sports betting is in the NFL is nearly impossible. Like, you go to college football and Alabama's playing, uh, you know, Wake Forest, and you see the
mm-hmm,
spread is 55, and a
mm-hmm,
half. Like, you go to the NFL, in the spread every single week is 3.5, 3 points,
mm-hmm,
1.5. The biggest spread week 1 is Denver over Tennessee, and it's still at only 7.5 points. So
mm-hmm,
even with the margin of skill that you're talking about, The NFL still every single week is any given Sunday. Anybody can win. There is no lock. Like this team's going to win and I know it. It's not even, I don't even need to watch the game. Like if that was happening in the NFL, what you're saying, I would be full on board. I would say we got to figure this out because it's not good for the game if the person watching it doesn't need to watch it. There's college football games that I don't need to put the TV on. The only question is, did they win by 45 or 50? The NFL doesn't have that ever. That's just never the case. And that's why they say any given Sunday, anyone can win. And that's what I think makes the game perfect.
I mean, I'm agreeing on a lot of what you're saying. I think we will have a sort of just a fundamental difference simply from the fact that even though we're both wanting the same outcome and we both agree. I mean, I'm an American football fan and a Denver Broncos fan. It's the only sport I watch, and follow. And it's for a reason.
Yeah.
And many of the reasons is exactly what you're talking about and what we've talked about over the last wee while in regards to the moments in the game and the highlights that we want to see and the way the game is presented and coached and played and the whole culture around it and the spectacle and everything. I'm totally on board with you, but yeah, there will always be the fact that I'm coming to it late. I'm coming to it from a different culture. New Zealand is only made up of 5.5 million people, right? When we're in the future, admittedly, so we are ahead of you in some ways, but
I want to come visit. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah, well,
I saw Justin Bieber shot a music video there.
Yeah. I mean, we punch above our weight.
It looks like the most beautiful place I've seen in my life. Like I've been to Hawaii, I've been through Europe, Norway, Iceland, the Navy. I was an air crewman and I flew and I was able to go a lot of places. But Norway, if you said right now, hey, here's a ticket to anywhere in the world, I would want to go to New Zealand.
Yeah, well, we're just coming into spring. It was quite warm today and the snow's melting. Ski season's kind of finishing up, and yeah, we're looking forward to the summer. Get to the beaches.
What's the best time of year to come right now?
Depends what you want to do.
I would want to go on hikes.
Any time of the year, come hiking here. Yeah.
Is it too cold though to hike in the winter?
You're only too cold if you don't have enough clothes on, Kyle.
Well, like, is it like 10 degrees or is it like 40?
So 0 degrees in Celsius is what, 30, 36?
30. That I think, is it 36?
I think, and about 100 degrees Fahrenheit is about 30 something.
So I don't know Celsius that well, but I think it's about a 30-degree separation. I thought it was 32. So 32 degrees Fahrenheit is 0 degrees Celsius. So I was right about that. 32.
Yeah. Okay, so on average in the winter here, we've just had winter. You're going to get here in Christchurch and in the South Island, you'll get some nights in the mountains where it'll be maybe 20 degrees, your 20 degrees. But primarily it's going to be around 30 to 40.
Oh, that's cool. I'm not where you're in Wisconsin. With the wind chill, it can get to like minus 40, minus 50.
There's no extreme. It's very
like
temperate. Like you can, So, our version of driving from Los Angeles to Atlanta, or straight across. I don't know who's not New York because that's too high, but from coast to coast for you is going to take a couple of days, right? For us here in Christchurch, for me to drive I'm on the east coast here. The sea is about 4 miles that way. And directly behind me is the West Coast. That would take me 3.5 hours to see
Wow.
yeah. So it's skinny, but
So
it's
it's
really
all one
long.
state.
Two main islands, the North and the South Island, very imaginatively named. Yeah, Aotearoa, New Zealand is our official name. Is Aotearoa, New Zealand, and the South Island only has about 1 million people in it. And if you were to drive from the very top of the South Island to the bottom of the South Island, it would take you probably somewhere around 12 to 14 hours.
I was gonna fly into Christchurch.
Yep, that's where I am. All the best is in the South Island. Yeah, all the best hikes, all the best mountains, all the lakes, the forest and the bush. It's just a little cooler. I'm actually from the North Island, so I
Is it a
do.
good place to raise a family?
Oh yeah. Amazing place to raise a family. If you only have to go on TikTok and YouTube to see the amount of people from the States that are moving over and doing big, doing daily updates on their day one of being in New Zealand or year one of being in New Zealand and the differences between the two.
I have to check it out on YouTube. I can't TikTok. The terms and conditions are just, it's too much for me. Access to my bank account, that's weird. Like, they say if something's free, you're the product.
Yeah.
And that can be true. Not that Google's much better, but
no. If you want to come hiking, you could spend the next couple of years just experiencing everything from the diversity. You're going to get the same kind of diversity as you would Florida, it's got beaches, and Denver has got the Rocky Mountains, and Seattle's got that Pacific Northwest, temperate forest, and you're going to get the Minneapolis and Minnesota and
it's funny because I've lived in all the places you just said.
Yeah, you're going to get the surfing and stuff down in California and everything else in between, right? But you've got to drive for days and months and weeks and everything to see. But here in New Zealand, you can have that same experience of a beautiful golden sandy beach one morning and the top of the mountain that afternoon. So you have everything's just
No, I love traveling. It's in New Zealand. The pictures that I've seen are just so beautiful. I know I couldn't move. I mean, the biggest move that I would make would be Hawaii, which is, even though it's the United States, it doesn't feel like it when you're there. Besides the fact that everyone speaks English, which is a lot easier than being in Italy or in Norway. But I found that even when I was gone, like I can hear a song or smell something and it makes me like homesick for Italy. So like same thing with Norway, and I missed those places so much. But when I was in those places for 6 months, I didn't realize how much I'm just an American, at the end of the day. Like, this is my home, even though for all of its problems, I'm like, home is home, it's like, so, it's like your family. Your family's got, everyone's family has, problems, but it's your family, those are my problems, and it's funny because I think a lot of people, especially Americans, they've never left long enough to miss it. Because I was in a unique situation where the military allowed me to spend half of a year out of my country. But I would say 99% of people that live in America, they've never left for long enough to get homesick. And it just changes your whole perspective on, the whole, like, the grass is greener on the other side. I always say the grass is
Mhm.
greener where you water it. The
Yeah,
grass is
it's
greener.
definitely true. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
But
I think New Zealand, like everywhere, has its issues. But the fact that we are all the way down here at the, in our own part of the world, it takes a hell of a long time to get here, and it's generally, it's not on the way to anywhere. It's definitely a destination. And you've got to put the effort to get here. But once you are here, you will find that you're going to feel both incredibly uncomfortable and incredibly comfortable at the same time. You're going to have your views challenged. You're going to have you're going to be questioned about the way that you think. You're going to have a completely different perspective on what it means to live a good life, and what is important, and why it's important, and what matters in life and what doesn't matter in life. You come to experience nature in a more holistic and in your face way. You are exposed to your own personal beliefs, and your own, just you as a person has to really face what it means to be a person on the planet,
mhm.
because this place is small. It's challenging. It's far away from everything. You have to be a lot more creative. You have to be a lot more tolerant. You have to be a lot more
You have to be okay with
willing to.
yourself.
You have to be okay with yourself. Yeah, absolutely. And then the comfortable side of it is that everybody is going to be open and trusting and understanding of you, and they're also not going to give a flying two shits about what you think or who you are, because until you can prove that you're a good person and you're trustworthy, and we're going to give you that, but we're always going to hold the back just a little bit until you actually let your guard down and
Earn it.
you know and earn it. And if there's New Zealand has a thing called tall poppy syndrome, where we don't like to talk about ourselves. We don't make a big deal of a problem or something that's amazing. Like we're not humble, but we're just like, yeah, man, that's yeah, okay, cool. Don't
You don't
just
get too high and you don't get too low.
calm calm down, mate. It's just a game. Like just
Yeah.
like take a chill pill for a second and just stare at the sunshine for 2 seconds. You
Is
might be
that how
okay
you
about
feel
it.
when you watch the Broncos play the last 10 years?
Um, it's not a fair question, Kyle.
Like, I'll say it like this. Do you feel like when the Broncos would lose that in any way it will affect your day?
No, because you just kind of just like, yeah, okay, that happened.
But
That
yeah,
happened. That
I
was
think
just,
I got better
mm,
when I got older. I learned how to regulate my emotions.
yeah,
When I was 16 and the Broncos would lose, like I would be in a bad mood.
yeah,
I didn't want to, it was like it's weird. I would be depressed for like 4 hours, and then I would
yeah,
come out of it. By Monday morning, it was like, all right, next week we got Atlanta, and it's all looking forward. We don't have time. That's why I like the NFL, is because, but no matter how bad Sunday is, by Monday, if you're still
yeah,
thinking about Sunday,
yeah,
you're gonna
yeah,
lose next Sunday. So you have to
yeah.
move on.
You
Um,
do, yeah,
it's
yeah.
a
I mean, it's the same. The same thing could be said about almost everything in life, and it's the fact that there's nothing like being there's nothing like having a bad attitude or a bad idea, or being invested or caring about something that sucks.
yeah.
To have your to be then reassess what your priorities are.
I'm giving you. You gave me a book to read, so I'm giving you a movie to watch.
Sure.
Okay. You have to watch it tonight. I'm just kidding. But whenever you can, I would suggest watching it before the Broncos
As
play
long
their
as it's
first
not
game.
Rudy. As long as it's not
No,
Rudy.
no. It's Fever Pitch.
Oh yeah, the football. Yeah, that's awesome.
No, Fever Pitch is baseball.
Originally, it was about soccer.
Fever Pitch?
Mm.
No,
think
it's
they
with
remade
Drew Barrymore and
Mm.
who's the talk show guy? Jimmy Fallon? No, not Jimmy
Mm.
Fallon. The other
I think
Jimmy.
originally it was that was a remake of an English movie about soccer, English football.
Here's what I was gonna show you, because here's the movie right here. So there's a scene in the movie where so he's a big Red Sox fan and she doesn't really understand it, but he's talking about, like, that's the thing, like, it's good for your soul to be invested in something you don't have control over. And there's just so many, like, this movie really sums up, it encapsulates more than any other book or movie I've ever seen what it means to be a fan of anything. And I just think it's worth the watch.
I like it. I will. I'll make a note of it here.
Well, let's do this again sometime.
Dude, like, let's have a mid-season catch-up.
Yeah, I would love to. I'm gonna write that down, and you got my information. I really enjoyed this. Sorry, I have to pee really bad.
No, man. Yeah, that's absolutely. I've just had a bucket here the whole entire time. So I haven't had to stand up once.
But no, really, thank you so much for doing this, and then I'll be in contact with you. You'll hear from me.
Yeah, man. If you want to chat about each game, I'm down. Yeah,
I'll do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Easy.
Well, thank you so much, Troy.
No, thanks, dude. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope everyone else out there has enjoyed the conversation. And always happy to jump online and have a chat with my fellow Broncos fans. It's been awesome. And let's hope the dudes have a good game on Monday. Sunday.
Yeah. Well,
against the Titans.
I just enjoyed the fresh perspective, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
To finish, give me your score for Sunday.
31-10.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, that's a touchdown and a penalty to the Titans. I might give the Titans 16, maybe a touchdown and 3 penalties. Three field
goals. Okay.
I'm leaning maybe towards 2, so maybe 13. And I think the Broncos can put up. Yeah, I think the Broncos can put up 30. Yeah, I like 31. I'm just to be contrary. Let me go 27.
27, 16.
Yeah.
And I got 31-10. All right, Troy. I'll talk to you soon.
Wicked. Thanks, dude.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Kia ora, bro. Take it easy.
You too.
See you, man.